Welcome, seeker of truth. Today we uncover the hidden mysteries of Edgar Cayce, the last moments of life and the first steps beyond death. If you feel these revelations touch your soul, don't keep them to yourself. Subscribe to our channel, share this journey with others, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice and your presence make this journey even more powerful. Let's walk together into the light of truth. As the room grew still, the sound of shallow breathing echoed like a fading tide, pulling back from the shore. Edgar Cayce had often spoken of this moment, the bridge between life and eternity, where silence is not absence but transition. In his visions, he described the soul hovering, almost detached, watching its earthly vessel with both tenderness and release. The final minutes of life are not marked by fear, he explained, but by an unfolding awareness. The body weakens, yet the spirit awakens to a greater truth. The senses dim, but perception sharpens beyond the physical. Those who once clung desperately to breath often discover, in that instant, a profound calm. It is as if the soul whispers, "You are not ending, you are remembering." Cayce described the strange duality of this moment. On one hand, the body trembles with the weight of mortality, the chest rising and falling with effort, the heart stumbling in its rhythm. On the other, the soul begins to drift gently, like a bird preparing for flight. People in near-death states often report a soft light appearing, not blinding but welcoming, a reminder that consciousness is not extinguished but expanded. And in this delicate space, the first separation occurs. The individual feels suspended between two worlds, one of sorrow and farewell, and another of freedom and reunion. Cayce insisted that no one dies alone. Unseen presences, guides, loved ones, even radiant beings gather around, waiting to escort the traveler across the threshold. This first stage, he said, is not a tearing away, but a gentle release. The fear of death belongs only to the living. For the departing, there is recognition, a strange but undeniable familiarity. The soul begins to understand. It has been here before. For Cayce, these final minutes were not the end of a story, but the opening chapter of a grander one. Life on earth was but a schoolroom, and death the graduation. He often reminded his followers, "We come not once, but many times. Death is but another door to learning." As the breath grows shallow and the heart slows, the soul whispers farewell, not with despair, but with gratitude. For every tear shed, there is a memory cherished. For every moment of pain, there is wisdom gained. And as the eyes close for the last time, another vision begins to open, one that stretches far beyond human comprehension. In Cayce's words, the final breath is not silence. It is the first note of eternity. The final heartbeat does not end the journey. It merely shifts the awareness. Edgar Cayce often described this threshold as a passage from shadow into radiance, a moment when the soul realizes it is no longer bound by weight or pain. Those who have walked this path before recount the sudden release, a lightness, as if stepping out of a heavy garment. The body lies still, but the soul floats freely, unburdened, glancing back at what once seemed permanent. In this moment, the physical shell becomes nothing more than an empty vessel, a sacred garment that has served its purpose. Cayce explained that the first sensation after death is not confusion, but recognition. The soul becomes aware of an expanding brightness, a soft illumination that does not burn the eyes but embraces the spirit. This light, he said, is both personal and universal. It feels like the love of a mother, the welcome of a father, the embrace of a friend. It is God's presence, expressed in a language that transcends words. For some, this threshold reveals familiar faces. Loved ones who departed long ago appear, radiant and whole, their eyes shining with compassion. They do not speak with mouths but with thought, and their message is always the same: you are safe, you are home. Others are greeted not by family, but by guides, beings of light who have accompanied them silently throughout life, unseen yet always near. The transition, Cayce noted, is unique for each soul. Those who lived in harmony, seeking truth and love, feel the passage as effortless, almost joyous. But those who clung to fear, resentment or denial may resist, lingering close to the earth. Still, the light is patient. It waits, gently pulling, never forcing, offering the soul endless opportunities to step forward. And then comes the moment of realization. The soul sees its own life stretched before it, not as judgment, but as understanding. Every act, every word, every hidden thought shines in clarity, not to condemn, but to teach. Cayce insisted this was not punishment, but education, a divine mirror reflecting the lessons of existence. Here, at the threshold, the soul asks, "What have I done with the life I was given?" The answers are not spoken by others, but rise from within, undeniable and luminous. This is the first step toward true freedom, the acknowledgement of one's own choices. Yet even in this revelation, there is no terror, only truth, and with truth comes release. The soul, now unshackled, begins to move forward, drawn deeper into the realms of light, where the true journey after death unfolds. For Cayce, these first moments were the most sacred. He described them as the gentle hand of God reaching down, lifting the spirit beyond the veil of time. Death, then, was not an end, but the most profound beginning. Beyond the first embrace of light lies a chamber not made of walls or stone, but of memory and truth. Edgar Cayce called it the Hall of Records within the soul, the place where one's life is unveiled in full clarity. Here, the departed witness the tapestry of their existence, woven from every thought, every deed, and every word. This life review is not punishment, nor is it judgment from an external throne. Rather, it is the soul's confrontation with itself. Cayce described it as a panoramic vision, where past events do not merely play out as memories, but as living experiences felt from every angle. The laughter you gave is relived, not from your perspective alone, but through the joy it brought to others. The pain you caused is felt in the very hearts of those who endured it. In this way, the soul perceives not only what it did, but what it meant. There is no escape in this reflection, no shadows to hide behind. Yet it is not cruelty, it is compassion. The soul is granted understanding, the kind that cannot be denied. The universe itself seems to whisper, "See, learn, become." For some, this review is radiant, filled with the warmth of kindness, sacrifice, and love. For others, it is heavier, a revelation of wasted time, of selfish acts, of words that wounded rather than healed. Cayce emphasized that the sorrow felt here is not imposed by divine wrath, but born of recognition. The soul understands the missed opportunities for love and growth, and this realization becomes the seed for change. Cayce often likened this stage to standing before a mirror polished by eternity. It shows not only who you were, but who you are destined to become. The mistakes are not final, they are lessons. The triumphs are not trophies, they are responsibilities to be carried into the next realm. And in this sacred unveiling, the soul does not stand alone. Guides and presences of light remain close, radiating acceptance. They do not accuse or condemn, they simply watch, offering strength for the truth now revealed. It is the soul itself that weighs the balance, not an external judge. Here, the departed makes a vow, whether spoken or silent, to grow, to rise, to do better in the journeys yet to come. For Cayce, this was the very purpose of the review, to awaken the soul to its eternal responsibility. Thus, the life review is not an end, but a turning point. Having faced its truth, the soul is ready to step deeper into the realms beyond, carrying the wisdom of recognition into the vast landscapes of spirit. After the unveiling of the life review, the soul does not wander aimlessly. According to Edgar Cayce, this stage is marked by profound encounters with beings who have walked alongside us since the first breath of life. These guides, guardians, and teachers of light reveal themselves fully now, offering comfort and wisdom as the soul prepares for its next steps. Cayce described these presences not as strangers, but as familiar companions. Throughout life, They were the quiet voices of intuition, the sudden impressions of conscience, the invisible hands that nudged us away from danger. At death, their presence becomes undeniable. Radiant, patient, and enveloped in peace, they greet the soul with an understanding beyond words. Each soul meets its guides differently. For some, they appear as angelic figures bathed in luminous garments. For others, they may resemble loved ones long departed, clothed in familiarity to ease the transition. But Cayce emphasized, their essence is the same. They are messengers of God, tasked with shepherding souls through the realms of spirit. Their first gift is reassurance. You are not alone, they convey, without the need for speech. This message permeates the soul with calm, dissolving the last remnants of earthly fear. They remind the traveler that the journey is not an exile, but a homecoming, a return to the greater family of spirit. Their second gift is orientation. The realms of spirit are vast, layered, and purposeful. Some planes are closer to the material world, where souls still cling to earthly attachments. Others ascend into higher vibrations, radiant with harmony and unity. The guides explain this landscape not as a map, but as a vibration, a resonance that the soul will naturally align with according to its growth, its desires, and its readiness. Cayce explained that no soul is forced higher than it can bear. Love is patient, and God's plan is merciful. Those still bound to earthly passions may linger near familiar places, drawn to what they cannot yet release. Others, ready for progress, are led by their guides into higher realms of study, service, and light. Perhaps the most profound moment is when the soul realizes that these guides have always been near. The forgotten prayers, the moments of despair when help was begged for, these were the very times when their hands reached out, unseen but real. Death only removes the veil, allowing the soul to recognize the guardians it has always known. For Cayce, this meeting was proof of divine order. No soul drifts in chaos. Each is accompanied, protected, and directed toward growth. And in the eyes of these guardians, the soul sees both its worth and its potential. With gratitude swelling like a new dawn, the traveler understands. The journey has only begun. And guided by love, it will go farther than it ever dreamed. After the meeting with guides, the soul is led into what Cayce described as the realms of transition. These are not places of punishment or reward, but planes of vibration, states of consciousness shaped by the choices and desires carried from earthly life. Each realm reflects the inner condition of the soul, a mirror of its spiritual maturity. Cayce explained that the first of these realms is closest to the material world. Here linger those who still cling to earthly attachments, possessions, unfulfilled desires, or unresolved fears. The souls are not trapped by external chains, but by their own reluctance to let go. They may hover near familiar places, drawn to the echoes of their former lives. Yet even here, light persists. Guides remain, patient and gentle, calling the souls toward release, urging them to look upward. Beyond this threshold lies a plane of awakening. Here, souls begin to accept their new state and the reality of spirit life. They shed the weight of denial and discover that thought itself creates their environment. A soul filled with harmony shapes surroundings of beauty and peace. A soul burdened by discord sees shadows of its own making. Cayce stressed that these realms are not eternal prisons but classrooms, designed for learning and growth. As the soul ascends, it enters brighter planes, each marked by greater clarity and unity. In these higher vibrations, communication is pure thought, free from misunderstanding. The sense of separation fades, and the soul begins to recognize its connection to all life. Here, learning continues, not through books or lectures, but through direct experience of truth. Souls engage in service, assisting others, or preparing for future incarnations. Cayce emphasized that progress through these realms is not forced, but chosen. Each soul advances as it desires more truth, more love, more light. No gate is locked, no door is barred. The only barrier is within, the willingness to release fear and embrace the divine. For those ready to rise, the journey becomes joyous. The realms glow with harmony, and the soul feels drawn ever higher, like a flame reaching for the sky. But even those who resist are never abandoned. The light waits, patient as eternity itself, offering chance after chance for growth. Thus the realms of transition reveal a divine order, merciful, patient, and endlessly purposeful. Death is not chaos, but structure, not an end, but a progression. Every soul, no matter how burdened, has a path to ascend, a lesson to learn, a destiny to fulfill. In Cayce's vision, this truth brought hope. No soul is ever lost. Every step, even the faltering ones, leads eventually back to the source from which all life flows. As the soul moves deeper into the realms of spirit, beyond the first transitions, a profound realization begins to dawn. Life, both earthly and eternal, has always had purpose. Edgar Cayce described this stage as one of the most illuminating moments after death, when the soul starts to see the grand design woven through all its journeys. Here, the departed no longer ask, "Why did I suffer?" or "Why was I given joy?" Instead, they begin to understand that every moment, painful or blissful, was part of a curriculum designed to shape the eternal being. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was accidental. Every relationship, every struggle, every fleeting triumph was part of a greater plan for growth. This recognition is accompanied by an overwhelming sense of awe. The soul perceives that it has walked many paths before and will walk many more still. Life on earth was never isolated, but one chapter in an ongoing book of learning. Cayce explained that reincarnation was not merely repetition, but progression, a spiral upward, leading the soul closer to divine unity. The guides, still present, help the soul interpret these revelations. They show patterns, weaving together fragments from multiple lifetimes. A moment of kindness in one incarnation connects with a lesson of sacrifice in another. A failure to love in one life becomes the seed of longing for compassion in the next. The tapestry is vast, intricate, and infinitely merciful. At this stage, the soul often feels a mixture of humility and gratitude. Humility because it realizes how much it has yet to learn. Gratitude because it now understands that even mistakes were stepping stones, not dead ends. Every error held within it the possibility of redemption, every sorrow the promise of wisdom. Cayce described this awakening as a kind of spiritual dawn. The soul stands on the edge of eternity, looking back at the roads it has traveled and forward to the paths yet to come. It begins to sense that it is not drifting in randomness, but carried within a current of divine order, flowing always toward God. And with this recognition comes peace. The restlessness that often plagued the soul in life, questions of meaning, fear of insignificance, melts away. Now it knows. It has always mattered. It has always been guided. It has always been loved. The realization of purpose is not the end of the journey, but the foundation for what follows. With clarity in its heart and light in its spirit, the soul prepares to enter higher realms of existence, where service, love, and unity become its guiding principles. Beyond the recognition of purpose, the soul begins to rise into what Edgar Cayce called the higher planes of spirit. These realms are not marked by gold or crystal cities, as earthly imagination might picture them, but by vibrations of unity and service. Here, the soul finds itself immersed in harmony so pure that discord seems like a distant dream. Cayce explained that in these higher realms, individuality is not erased, but expanded. The soul retains its identity, yet feels inseparably linked to others, like notes within a single symphony. There is no envy, no competition, no need for possession. Instead, there is the joy of sharing, of working together for a greater good. Service becomes the natural expression of love. Souls in these planes dedicate themselves to helping those still in transition, Some act as comforters, guiding the newly departed who tremble at the threshold of light. Others descend to lower planes, whispering encouragement to those still clinging to earthly attachments. Still others assist in preparing souls for reincarnation, ensuring that lessons yet unlearned will be faced with new opportunities. This service is not forced, nor is it sacrifice in the earthly sense. It is joy. Cayce compared it to a musician playing not for reward, but for the sheer beauty of the song. Each act of service deepens the soul's awareness of its connection to God, drawing it ever closer to the source. In these realms, communication is pure and unclouded. Souls exchange thought and understanding without words, without misunderstanding. Knowledge flows freely, not hoarded but shared. The mysteries of the universe, once glimpsed only in fragments, begin to unfold as natural truths. Time itself loses meaning. Past, present, and future are seen as parts of a greater whole. The atmosphere here is one of radiant peace. Light permeates everything, not as an external sun, but as the living essence of God's presence. The soul feels bathed in this light, strengthened and renewed. It is here that many souls realize they are not only students, but also co-creators, invited to participate in the unfolding of divine purpose. Yet even in this exalted state, the soul does not forget the earthly realm. Instead, it views life on earth with compassion, understanding its struggles as necessary steps in the eternal journey. Many choose to return, not out of obligation, but out of love, to help, to guide, to grow further through new experiences. For Cayce, these higher realms revealed the ultimate truth, that existence is not about escape, but about union. The soul discovers that its greatest joy lies not in isolation, but in service, in harmony, and in becoming a living reflection of God's love. At the pinnacle of the journey, beyond the realms of service and harmony, the soul begins to sense the ultimate truth. It is returning to the very source from which it first emerged. Edgar Cayce described this not as dissolution, but as fulfillment. The soul does not vanish into God, it becomes fully alive in God. Here, individuality is not erased, but perfected. The soul retains its essence, yet understands itself as part of the infinite whole. Like a drop recognizing the ocean, it realizes that its true identity has always been divine. What was once seen as separation, life and death, joy and sorrow, light and shadow, was only the illusion of a temporary classroom. Now the soul perceives the unity behind all opposites, the eternal harmony that sustains creation. The experience is beyond human words. Cayce spoke of an overwhelming sense of love, limitless, radiant, complete. Every question dissolves in the light of this love. Every wound is healed, every longing is satisfied. The soul no longer seeks because it has found what it was always seeking, union with the Creator. In this union, the soul also discovers responsibility. To be one with God is not to escape existence, but to become a channel for divine will. Some souls remain in these heights, radiating love as part of the eternal harmony. Others, filled with compassion, choose to return to the lower realms or even to earthly life, carrying the light into places of darkness. This choice, Cayce emphasized, is not commanded, but embraced, an act of love mirroring the Creator's own. The return to the source is not the end of the journey, but its true beginning. For eternity is not static, it is creative, dynamic, ever unfolding. The soul becomes aware that existence itself is an endless expansion of love, and it is invited to participate in that expansion forever. Cayce reminded us that this vision is not reserved for saints or mystics alone. Every soul, no matter how burdened, is destined to find its way back to God. The path may be long, with many turns, many lives, many lessons, but the destination is certain. The source calls to all, and none are forgotten. And so death, which once seemed like an end, is revealed as the greatest beginning. The final breath becomes the first step into eternity, the first glimpse of light that never fades. The soul, having walked through shadow, suffering and lessons, rises at last into the embrace of the infinite. In Cayce's words, life is continuous, the soul is eternal, and death is but the doorway to a greater awakening.